If you're interested in this market, the next 24 hours will be very important. And the reason I say that is because, for starters, stocks are back open today. Besides that, there will be important new information about the trade war between the US and China. In my video from last night, a lot of people asked me if the stock market would be open today since it is Columbus Day. Yes, stocks are still open. Some markets won't be open today, like bonds, which I'm pretty sure won't be open today. We will, however, get big news about stocks. At the moment, crypto looks like a sea of green. We are seeing some old coins go up by 10, 20, 30, or even more than 50% on the daily view right now. Yes, all three of these cryptocurrencies, XRP, HBAR, and XLM, are up today no matter how much they are going up. We are mostly interested in going back to earlier support levels and flipping them. Bitcoin is currently trading around 114.8 thousand, which isn't very important. XRP is almost $2.56. Ethereum 4,100. XLM is at 34. HBAR is at about 18. And the rest of the market is still going along at a steady pace. As for the market itself, its market value is $3.91 trillion. There were times when we did reach 4 trillion. I'm not sure how they came up with that number, but 3.91 trillion right now, according to the coin market cap. Back to 40, fear and greed. It was very interesting to see how things changed from scary to neutral. Listen, most of the old coins in this market have been way too cheap lately. That's what we talked about when we looked at the fear and greed measure too. Fear and greed are a good way to see how big the market is selling off and how people feel about it, but the average RSI in the market gives us a better idea of how depressed some of these old coins are. If we look at RSI, we could see it every 15 minutes, but I usually try to look at it over the course of 24 hours. I believe that the 24-hour period is a much better one to look into than, say, one of these shorter time zones. When you look at the 24-hour view, you can see that many old coins are still way too cheap. If you look at just the last 7 days, you can see that a lot of old coins are also way too cheap. There are also some old coins in them that we talk about a lot on the show. But once more, we knew that there was a lot of fake selling pressure during the recent drop. This is why many old coins, including XRP, had a huge wave to the downside. Now, and I want to stress this is one of the most important messages I can give to everyone out there. What you see on X is not always true. Not long ago, earlier today, I wrote something that asked, does anyone even fact check this account? Where does the source come from? There is no Truth Social link for this. This comes from Watcher Guru on X. If you remember, this is the same account that said they were hacked when they sent out a tweet about how excited they were about Swift accepting Ripple and XRP. This post was made 6 hours ago. Just now, President Trump said that taxes on China are still planned for November 1st. This has scared the market a bit. Then the same thing was said by another story. But do you notice something very interesting here? Take a look at who sent this to you. There is also BRICS Info and Watcher Guru. Another account in this ecosystem is BRICS Info. If we think about how all of these accounts are connected, the person who runs them is probably trading the market when some of these news stories come out and make people nervous. That's why you shouldn't trust everything you see. This was also a new report from Cointelegraph. Trade concerns between the US and China ease as both sides say they are ready to start talking again, which gives investors hope that the market will recover. Where did you get this information? For sure, it comes from Truth Social. This is what Trump wrote on his social media site. China is not a problem. Everything will be okay. President Xi, who is very well liked, just had a bad day. I and he both don't want the country to go off the rails. The US wants to help China. I haven't heard it. Donald J. Trump is president. Please let me know if this is a reasonable question. If we are looking into this, can we be sure that this week we will not hear an exaggerated report about the trade war? Without a doubt not. While we can't say for sure, when we look at the market, we can see that the signs were very strong in terms of, hey, guess what? This isn't true because the market just went down. We are now above the level of depressed conditions that we haven't seen since April 2025, which was also the bottom. What do you think? We could tell from this drop that most of these plots had already hit bottom. I don't think most of these charts have hit bottom yet, so it doesn't matter what happens this week. Now, let's look at a few other things like stocks, since today is one of the most important days to really pay attention to stocks. This is how the stock market looks on Friday. From what we can tell, this was a very big sell-off, right? The S&P 3.1% only had one light, a pretty big selling off. If you look at this on a smaller time frame, like the 4-hour or even some of these lower time frames, you can see that this really got too low. The most important thing to think about right now is whether or not the S&P will experience a little more pain later today. This is something that could definitely happen, right? I put this blue zone here for a reason. Are we just going to open in the green and bounce back? So if we look at some things like the pre-market, we can see that the standard finance market was also scared at about 29. But let's take a look at the futures. The Dow went up 400 points or 0.88%. The S&P is up 81 points or 1.23%. It went up 406 points or 1.67%. It looks like a big jump in the market is coming up. This needs to be taken with a grain of salt. From now until the market starts, things could go differently. Be ready for a big wave to the upside, though. If we start to open in a very strong way, and this is the bottom, I think this will push the S&P to 7,000 or more. Now we have news from the Kabaisi letter. Breaking, the US stock market futures open sharply higher as investors react to this weekend's de-escalation between the US and China. The Dow is up 0.9%, the S&P is up 1.1%, and the Nasdaq is up 1.4%. We'll still reach a trade deal before November 1st. The S&P 500 is up 120 points at the open if you count the drop in futures after the market closed. This has pretty much erased half of the drop that happened late last week. Let's wait for more direction from the Trump administration. We do need to take things one step at a time. The most important thing right now is to make it through the opening bell and see how stocks really respond to what came up over the weekend. It's hard to tell what to think right now, so we're really hoping for some big news this week. Now that we look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even XRP, we can see that they are starting to rise from their low points. The most important thing I've been talking about is looking at structure, especially in the last few days because of the huge sell-off. As for Bitcoin, we just saw the end of a very important weekly candle. Yes, it wasn't the craziest light close. It was, however, a higher low than the last few weekly candle closes, which was a very good sign. When we look at this on a daily scale, I did talk about how we've been seeing positive structure form on the RSI compared to price action. Taking a look at how prices are moving right now, we just broke through my first key level on this chart, which was 113.4 thousand.